Hello everyone. So this video is meant to understand antiplatelet drugs, the mechanism of action. We know that antiplatelet drugs, we know platelets are known to cause a platelet plug. So these drugs are one which are used in case of thromboembolic disorders. Okay. Let's start by understanding the basics first. So here we have a vessel wall which is lined by endothelium. We know that endothelium has a famous receptor, that is von Willebrand factor. Okay, so this von Willebrand factor always combines the famous GP1B, and this GP1B is what is present over the platelet. So this combination of this adhesion of platelet to the endothelium is because of von Willebrand factor combining with GP1B. This doesn't happen in the natural cases because von Willebrand factor naturally is not expressed over the endothelium. It is inside as well as GP1B. This happens in cases we have platelet adhesion occurring because of some trauma or other regions, coagulopathy or hemodynamic disorder. Okay, so this is the first step we need to understand, that is platelet aggregation. Platelet adhesion. So this is the first step in the formation of platelet plug. The second step is release of some molecules. One of them is ADP and the other one is thromboxane A2. And this step is what is known as platelet activation. Also, we have molecules like GP2B3A on the surface of platelet. This GP2B3A is also present on another platelet, and these molecules are interlinked via fibrinogen. So we have fibrinogen which cross-links the molecule of platelets via the GP2B3A, and this is the third step, that is known as the platelet aggregation. So understanding this normal functioning of the platelet action, we can understand where is the site of action of different antiplatelet drugs. So the first step was platelet adhesion between GP1B and von Willebrand factor, release of ADP and thromboxane A2, platelet activation, and third step was GP2B3A via the fibrinogen cross-linking the platelet, leading in platelet aggregation. Okay, so we had these three steps that are occurring leading to platelet adhesion, activation and aggregation. Let's try to understand the steps where drugs are going to act. Okay, so the first class of drug is the one which is going to act in thromboxane A2. Let's try to understand how. So this was our platelet molecule. We had arachidonic acid in the every cell membrane, which via the COX enzyme is going to break down, especially by COX-1, into the thromboxane A2. Now thromboxane A2 is a molecule that causes platelet aggregation, okay, and leads to thrombus formation. So we have a molecule here that is thromboxane A2 inhibitor, or more commonly it is COX-1 inhibitor actually, and that is aspirin. So this is our first antiplatelet drug, that is aspirin. Via inhibiting COX-1 enzyme, it causes, that is cyclooxygenase 1 enzyme inhibitor, it causes antiplatelet effect. Okay, so first class of drug we studied is aspirin, that is a COX-1 inhibitor. The second class of drug we will try to understand is the one we haven't discussed right now, and that one is so if this is platelet, we have one more receptor over the surface of platelet, that is P2Y12, or more commonly it is known by name ADP receptor. Okay, so we knew ADP is going to be released. So this ADP binds to this receptor, and this ADP binding to this receptor causes some molecules from inside of the receptor to be expressed on the surface. and these receptors that are expressed on the surface are GP2B3A, and these molecules help in cross-linking of the platelet, that is platelet aggregation. The second step, that is platelet activation, is helped by ADP binding to ADP receptor, also known by name of P2Y12 receptor, and this causes the surface expression of GP2B3A. We not need to know this, but we need to remember that these receptor P2Y12 or ADP receptor are present over the surface. So if we give this ADP receptor antagonist, okay, that will lead to decreased expression of GP2B3A, decreased platelet aggregation, so we will have an antiplatelet effect seen. So these ADP receptor antagonists are of two types. We have either reversible or we have irreversible, which have permanent binding. Okay, so the reversible one includes two, that are ticagrelor and cangrelor, whereas the irreversible one include three, can be remembered by, so here we had T, here we had C, remembered this by T, C and P. So in reversible also we had TC, here we had TCP, that is ticlopidine, clopidogrel and prasugrel. These are common drugs which are used in cases of ACS during percutaneous intervention to decrease the chances of thrombus formation. Okay, so these are second class of drug we have studied, that are P2Y12 receptor. So here's, let's summarize it. So second class of drug is ADP receptor inhibitor or the P2Y12 receptor inhibitor. We have the reversible and we have the irreversible. The reversible one are T and C, and the irreversible one are T, C and P. So now let's talk about the third class of drug, and the third class of drug we are going to talk about are easy to understand, and these are, we already know a little bit about them, that are GP2B3A inhibitor. So we know these are going to help in cross-linking of the platelet molecule via the fibrinogen. So blocking this will block the platelet aggregation. Okay, so somehow we are blocking the aggregation of platelet, and these drugs include three, and we need to remember epciximab and tirofiban. Okay, just remember these two drugs. So these are GP2B3A drugs that are going to cause inhibit the platelet aggregation. So the third class of drug, just remember, let's summarize it here. Let's write it here. We have the third class of drug, that is GP2B3A inhibitor. We have studied about epciximab and epciximab and eftifibatide. The fourth class of drug we need to remember is the one, so we have thrombin receptor over the surface. Okay, thrombin is a molecule that is going to cause platelet aggregation. So inhibition of thrombin receptor, okay, the fourth drug class is thrombin receptor antagonist. So inhibiting or antagonizing the thrombin receptor is going to decrease the platelet aggregation, because thrombin is a molecule which causes the platelet aggregation. So this include only one drug, that is varopaxar. And the last class of drug we need to remember is a drug we know. Let's try to understand again. So we have the molecule of the platelet. We have formation of we have a molecule that is CAM that is formed inside the platelet. Okay, and CAMP is a molecule that inhibits platelet aggregation. We have CAMP inside the platelet, which is going to inhibit the platelet aggregation. Yeah, so we have the CAMP, which is going to cause inhibition of platelet aggregation. Means CAMP somehow can act to decrease the platelet aggregation. And how we are going to increase CAMP inside the cell? So we have a molecule that is phosphodiesterase that degrades the CAMP. Okay, so by blocking phosphodiesterase enzyme, we can indirectly increase the level of CAMP. So these molecules that increase the level of phosphodiesterase are phosphodiesterase inhibitor, and the drug that is included in phosphodiesterase inhibitor is dipyridamole. So the fifth class of drug we have is dipyridamole, and this drug is a phosphodiesterase inhibitor. So let's summarize it fast. So we have the first class of drug, that is the aspirin, that is a COX cyclooxygenase 1 inhibitor that is going to decrease the level of thromboxane A2. Remember that this balance between prostacyclin, on one side the guy prostacyclin setting and on the other side guy thromboxane A2 setting, is the basis of these antiplatelet drugs. Okay, so we have first class of drug, that is thromboxane A2 inhibitor. The second class is ADP receptor or P2Y12 receptor inhibitor, which expresses the GP2B3A receptor in the platelet surface. So inhibition of these receptor is somehow going to decrease the surface expression of GP2B3A, that is going to cause platelet aggregation decrease. We have two classes of drug, reversible and irreversible. The reversible one are ticagrelor and cangrelor, and ticlopidines, clopidogrel and prasugrel are irreversible. The third class of drug are GP2B3A inhibitor that include epsiximab and eftafibatide. We have thrombin receptor inhibitor, which decreases the level of thrombin receptor antagonism is seen. We have varopaxar, and we have dipyridamole, which actually is used in angina. It is a phosphodiesterase inhibitor which indirectly increases the CAMP level, which causes the platelet to decrease their aggregatory effect. So these were bits about antiplatelet drugs. Hope you liked it. Thanks for watching.